Can you give us a little bit of your history?
Okay, I was affected by polio when I was 2 years old. I grew up and I found myself differently from other children. So inferiority complex and low self-esteem set in. I didn't want to mingle with any child in my compound, in my school, in my church, until my mom worked hard on me. She said, Lois, you have to accept yourself with the condition you found yourself. You have to be grateful to God for being alive. You have to be proud of yourself. And that was the beginning of my change of story. I began to listen to what my mom was saying, and to the glory of God and by the special grace of God, today I'm a public speaker. Today I'm a leader. Today I'm a game changer in different areas of life. I now see my disability as a blessing and not a curse. I see it as a bridge and not a barricade. And I see my disability as an opportunity to change the world. Disability is not the end of the world, it's the beginning of life, according to me. So I am very proud to be a wheelchair user, and polio can never stop me, because according to the story my mom shared with me, she said I had fever at 2. She took me to the hospital and I was administered with medication and injection. So I fell asleep. So by the time I woke up, she was sitting a bit far from me, and she called me to come to where she was sitting. You could imagine a child of 2 years plus that could walk, that could run. But when I stood up on the bed, I fell down. And that happened 3 times. So my mom was surprised. What happened to my daughter? She now stood up from where she was sitting and she came to me and sat down in the bed with me. And she said, what happened to your legs? She touched my legs. And that was when she called the attention of the medical practitioners, the doctors and the nurses. And they found out that polio affected my legs. And when I grew up and found out what polio means, I did a research about polio. And I confronted my mom. I said, what happened? You didn't do the immunization, or what really happened? She said, yes, she missed one. That she missed one of the immunization exercise that was carried out in the community then. So I grew up with that mentality that I'm going to fight for the rights of people in my community. I'm going to advocate and promote disability rights. And that's where we are right now. Thank you for asking.
Oh, great. You know, and your story is a good one for a lot of people, because the family is so important at that early age to encourage the child to go out and deal with the polio. And I know that there was a point where you didn't even want to, but your mom really pushed you. Is that correct?
I didn't hear that, Mr. Ken.
Okay, sorry. Let's see if I can get a little closer to my mic. So the question is, I was talking about family, the importance of family. at that stage when you're a child and you come down with polio. And I think I read an article about you that said you didn't want to go out. You just wanted to lay in bed at that point. And it was your mother the one that really encouraged you to do that. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I was encouraged by my mother specifically and my entire family members, my dad and my siblings. Because there was a day our neighbors visited us and they said to my mom that she focus on my siblings. She shouldn't focus her energy on me. And my mom responded to them that among all my siblings, I'm the most brilliant and the most intelligent, that she will never do that. That she would rather focus on me than my siblings, because my siblings have their legs to move around independently. But for me, I needed help. So she had to help. She had to assist. She has to make sure that I am educated. And that was it. Now the story has changed. The rejected stone has become the chief cornerstone. Thank you so much, once again, for asking. And I want to apologize that, is it possible I don't know, I need to turn off the video because where I am, the network is not strong. If you can hear me,
No, go
is
ahead,
it
Lois.
possible? Or if
Yeah.
it's not possible, then
You're clear, but yeah, no, turn it off. That's fine. Oftentimes when you have weak video, weak internet, it's good to turn the video off.
Mhm.
So why don't you go and do that? That would be fine. So now the thing is, you have such a good attitude, and you even have a positive attitude about your disability. Is that correct? Because of your disability, your life changed, right?
Yes.
And can you talk about in what way that happened? I mean, you have a very positive attitude that your disability was very important to you. Did you hear me on that?
Yeah, Mr. Ken.
Yeah. So your attitude about your disability is almost a positive one. Obviously, you would rather not have polio, but you have turned your polio into a positive thing. How have you done that?
Yes, having a positive mindset has given me an edge over others, because in Nigeria, you're going to talk about organizations of persons with disabilities, the top 3 or the top 5. You must mention Cedar Foundation or Network of Women with Disabilities because of the work we do. So I never see polio or disability stopping me from achieving my dreams. I'm a woman with 99.9 abilities.
Mhm.
It's only one disability I have, which was polio that affected my legs, only my legs. I have my brain to think, I have my fingers to write proposals that will bring succor, that will impact the lives of millions of persons with disabilities. If you don't know, in Nigeria, we have over 30 million citizens with disabilities. And these are community of vulnerable groups that have been excluded, discriminated, marginalized, and underrepresented in many aspects of life. So what I do every day in my life is to be a voice, a positive voice, a voice that calls for a change in the attitude towards persons with disabilities. these are people that have rights to education, rights to health, rights to employment, rights to political participation, and every other right you think of. Because they say disability rights are human rights, and nothing about us without us. So we must be included. And if you don't know, Nigeria and other countries, or let me say the developed countries are already moving from inclusion to participation. But in Nigeria, we are still advocating for inclusion. It will also interest you to know that Nigeria had an election early this year in the first quarter of 2023. And this transition period, there was appointments, but persons with disabilities were excluded from this appointment of 45 people as ministers. This is sad, but through our advocacy, through our engagement with the relevant key actors, they are beginning to listen to us. They are beginning to act as it should. Just last week, a senior special assistant to the president was appointed in the person of Abba Issa. And this was as a result of our advocacy. Is it the Nigerian Disability Act that we advocated for close to 20 years? It was finally passed in 2019 by the former administration. And the act had some provisions on education, on access to health, access to employment, training opportunities, and a 5% reservation of every opportunity, including the establishment of Nigerian Disability Act. The Disability Act was established in October 2020. And now we have a body that manages issues of persons with disabilities in Nigeria. Lois Auta was instrumental in making these changes work through our platforms in Cedar Foundation, Network of Women with Disabilities, and other organizations, associations that I belong to, the ones I founded and the ones I am a chairman of the board of trustee or a member of the board or some advisory board that I belong to. So these are few activities I mentioned about what we did in Nigeria. Not only me, but with other colleagues of mine in the disability community. People like Honorable James Lalu, who is the Executive Secretary of National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, Dr. Jake Ekpele, the founder and Executive Director of the Albino Foundation. We have Dr. Irene Patrick, we have Grace Jerry, Rose Daniel, Honorable Kenan Mizim. We have many of us that are a strong voice in the activities of persons with disabilities in the country, not just in Nigeria. I've been a voice in the US, other African countries. So thank you very much, Mr. Kane, for this platform. I'm very, very proud to be here today. I am grateful to Ina for having me. So I'm ready for the next question.
Okay, let's talk about some of the things you've done as an advocate, because you've been very proactive. And you formed a couple of organizations. Can you tell us about the Cedar Seed Foundation?
Yeah, Cedar Seed Foundation was informally set up in 2011, but formally in 2013. It was registered with Corporate Affairs Commission here in Nigeria And since then, we've been engaging with relevant stakeholders on how to achieve inclusion on the issues and affairs of persons with disabilities. So our thematic areas falls under entrepreneurship and economic empowerment. We have democracy and good governance. We have inclusive education. We also have access to health, climate change, and access to renewable energy, making sure that we transform our energy to products like the idea of solar backpacks. We have an idea that took us to the presidency in 2016, where we installed solar panels on school bags for students in the rural areas. So we have engaged government in policy development, on health, on education, on inclusive governance. It will also interest you to know that there were times that I had to step down from being the executive director in Cedar Foundation, that I ran for office. I ran for House of Representatives in 2019 here in the FCT. And that action has inspired many women, young women, persons with disabilities, and young people to aspire for future elections, because I was able to break the record being the first woman with disability that ran for House of Reps amongst 4,080 candidates in the whole country. Another one was here in Kaduna State, because I ran in the FCT. Yes, I lost the vote, but I have won the process in many perspectives, being a history breaker and record holder, a pace setter in the Nigerian politics for persons with disabilities, not just for women, because women with disabilities in Nigeria, they are at a 0% level of participation in governance. We are treated as third-class citizens. First, as a woman, secondly, as a woman with disability, lastly, the barriers that we face, which could be infrastructural, attitudinal, and institutional. Because Nigerian legal framework has provided that 5% of opportunities should be reserved, but we're not doing that. We are not implementing that. So in Cedar Seed Foundation, recently we launched a project tagged Disability Inclusion in Governance, DIG, funded by Mercator Foundation in partnership with Policy and Legal Advocacy Center. These ideas, these initiatives, these projects or activities that we've been doing has really given opportunities to many persons with disabilities to be employed in different ministries, departments, and agencies in the country. It has also provided opportunities for a meeting with high-level officers after our press conference in September this year, that they requested for names of women with disabilities and men with disabilities for appointments. So the advocacy is gaining momentum. We are getting to be aware that yes, we need to move from inclusion to participation. No room for exclusion, no room for excuses, no room for saying, no, you have to wait. No, this is our time. Enough of the stigmatization and exclusion. We have to be given our rights because it is our rights. So in Cedar Seed Foundation, we have advocated for disability inclusion in different angles through the Disability Act, through our project on inclusive education, where we provided scholarship awards to 256 students with disabilities from basic to tertiary institutions. We have also provided loans opportunities to entrepreneurs with disabilities through our Central Bank of Nigeria in partnership with Abuja Enterprise Agency. We have also did a project with USAID on inclusive education policy development in Gombe State in 2022, where we made sure that a budget line was inserted in Gombe State Ministry of Education for persons with disabilities in schools. We encourage inclusive education. We don't want special schools. We want a mainstream school where students will mingle, students with disabilities will associate with those without disabilities. We want facilities to be provided in the schools. Ramps should be there at the entry and exit points. Sign language interpreters should be placed at strategic points, and Braille materials should be provided as textbooks, the normal textbooks that students use in schools. We should have similar documents in Braille. Then for students with albinism, magnifying glasses should be provided, and their schools should not be far from their homes because their skin is not friendly to the sun. And such advocacy are what Cedar Seed Foundation is doing to ensure inclusivity in every aspect. Because for me, I am passionate about education. If I am not educated, I don't think I'll be invited today to come and share my story or share my experience in life. So education is very key, is vital in the lives of children with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
When we are educated, we will be able to empower ourselves. For example, my life, I have done so much for my life that my name is becoming an institution in Nigeria, not just in Nigeria, in Africa. I have sat down with some African countries on a panel discussion before, being the first young global leader of the World Economic Forum with disability from Africa. I don't think that record is being broken up to now. I am still the first YGL. I was inducted in 2017, and now I'm an alumna. I'm an alumna of the YGL of the World Economic Forum. So we've been on different panels with some African presidents like South Africa, Ethiopia, Zimbabwe, and the rest. So we now moved from Cedar Seed Foundation to Network of Women with Disabilities because we realized that women with disabilities are being marginalized. We are the most discriminated. We are the most poorest of the poor because of the stereotyping that is happening in the country due to culture and traditions. So that was why we set up network of women with disabilities to interact with each other, to collaborate with different organizations of persons, of women with disabilities within the country. Thank you so much.
So there's one other thing I want to touch upon. I mean, your advocacy is amazing. And, you know, you're gotten involved in changing the laws in your country. You ran for office to try to have an impact there. You created the Cedar Seed Foundation to have an impact in many different ways and with people with disabilities. And there was one other thing I wanted to ask you about, and that's the Network for Women with Disabilities. So what is that?
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Ken, please, could you repeat the question?
Oh, sure. I'm asking you about the one other thing that I know you've done, and that's the Network for Women with Disabilities. What is that, and what does that do?
Oh, okay. Network of Women with Disabilities came into existence in 2019 with the name Network of Disabled Women. So some people challenge us that why do we address ourselves as disabled women when United Nations has a terminology known as persons with disabilities or women with disabilities. So in 2021, we now changed the name to Network of Women with Disabilities. So in 2019 to 2020, 2021, we worked with Global Affairs Canada on Women's and Voice Leadership Project, where we mentored young girls with disabilities in secondary school. We set up leadership clubs for them to meet and discuss their issues on monthly basis. We also train them on hygiene and also career paths, how to choose their courses post-secondary school to university. They shouldn't go for special education alone, because we realize that many of us are making a mistake of applying for special education in the high school, that's universities. And after graduation, they find it difficult to secure a job because the job opportunities we have are looking for engineers, they are looking for lawyers, they are looking for finance officers, they are looking for different types of careers, not just those that studied special education. So we train them on how to choose the right career path and also how to develop a CV that will draw the attention of employers. Still on the same project, we train our women on how to involve actively in politics by joining political parties, by making sure they engage themselves as leaders in the political parties, not just followers or members. Then another project that we did with Site Savers is on employment opportunities for women and girls with disabilities. We worked with government, Federal Ministry of Labor, ILO, and other key actors to ensure that the 5% reservation of job employment is achieved. So we are still advocating, though the project ended in 2022, but we have achieved a lot. It was a partnership with 4 countries, funded by FCDO, implemented by Site Savers. And another one is with Disability Right Fund, a project that we worked on the political participation of women with disabilities, because that's one of our thematic areas. And we developed a policy brief. We want each state assembly in Nigeria to reserve a space for women and girls with disabilities. So the policy brief is still there, though the project ended, but we're trying to use the policy brief we developed to achieve the recommendations that are in the policy brief. Then another one is the project with Feminist Humanitarian Network, where we empowered members of our group with training skills and starter packs. That's for non-technical members of our community. Then we did another one with UN Women on the experiences of women with disabilities on gender-based violence, how to get the data of a woman who has experienced gender-based violence.
So, wow. I mean, you are an
Thank
advocate. You're an advocate almost every moment of your life. You're advocating for, and particularly for people with disabilities. And you have seen needs, you have seen wrong, and you don't just sit there. You work to change, to make change. And so I have one final question for you. And so this is a group which is called the Post-Polio Syndrome Advocacy Group. There are a lot of support groups for people with post-polio syndrome, and God bless them. But we're trying to encourage people to become advocates. We would all like to be an advocate at your level, but yeah, you're amazing. But we can all advocate in some way. What is your message for the people in this group? How to go out and start advocating like you did?
Yes. What I have to tell some Africans with disabilities like me is they should be resilient. They shouldn't see polio as a barrier, but they should see it as a blessing. They should be able to change their situation from the negative side to the positive side. They should be proud of themselves. They should also have this kind of spirit that I have, that polio will not stop them from reaching their goal, from their accomplishments, from their achievements, or any other opportunity they have. They should make sure they use it effectively and exceedingly well. This morning, we launched an empowerment program for persons with disabilities in Nigeria through the Office of the Executive Secretary and National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. The Honorable Minister, Dr. Betta Edu, did the launching, and hundreds and millions of persons with disabilities will be empowered through the Office of the Federal Ministry of Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. This is huge. So what am I trying to say? Everyone is beginning to be aware that yes, we need to establish opportunities we need to include issues of disability in our agenda. We need to implement those legal frameworks that we have. So I'm talking to individuals with disabilities. I'm also talking to the key actors, government agencies, private sector, and other platforms that we have. I hope I answered your question.
Very good. No, thank you very much. And I much appreciate what you're doing and you being with us today. And I'm going to turn this back to you for anybody who may have some questions.
Do they want to put them in the little chat area? If not, I can, let's see who's
they can
there.
raise their hand. I'm not as good as John at this. John.
Yeah, me neither. Me neither.
Yeah. So if they want to raise their hands, that's fine.
Sure. I wanted to ask you also, where do you run into resistance? Is it governmental? Is it people who need to be encouraged? Where is your biggest barrier to bringing people along to your advocacy?
Yes, the biggest barrier is from the government, because in the disability community, we have many competent persons with disabilities. We have engineers amongst us, we have lawyers, we have medical doctors, we have different people with different careers in our community. But the major issue is there's no opportunity. Even when a new administration comes in with all the promises, they find it difficult to implement. In Nigeria, we have beautiful policies, beautiful documents. Is it from the Independent National Electoral Commission? Is it from Federal Ministry of Education? I was one of the consultants that developed some of these policies. And yet, we are not doing what is written in these policies. So government is the biggest barrier as an advocate or an activist on disability inclusion. And just like I said earlier, we need to move from inclusion to participation, just like the way US, UK, Germany, and other developed countries are doing. For Nigeria, we are still operating on the charity model when other countries are working on human rights model. So you can see the difference. So we really need to put all hands on deck. Collaboration is key. That's why I'm very proud of Mr. Kane and his team. He's always making sure that people are joining his group so we can have a brilliant conversation on issues that we need to address. Thank you, Mr. Ken. Thank you, Ina. You're doing amazing work. Yeah, please keep it up.
Yeah, we have another question. Since we are really post-polio centric, and we want to know what do you run into with any post-polio symptoms that you're having, or if you're not having them yet, you might have them. Do doctors there understand the late effects of polio? Do you think when people show up and present with different kinds of it changes, fatigue or muscle weakness, or things are changing, swallowing issues. We have all kinds of things because polio touched everything in the spinal column. So you never know what's going to show up. Do you think there are doctors there who are paying attention to post-polio?
This is a very good question. And to be frank, to be sincere, to be truthful on answering this question is a big no.
Yeah.
Because for me, yes, I'm 43 years now. I have started feeling the symptoms and signs of post-polio because sometimes my legs get hot, pains on the knees, pains on the ankle, and at times I won't be able to sleep. So I have started getting the post-polio syndrome already. But most doctors, physiotherapists are not aware. Even the persons with disabilities themselves,
Right.
they are not.
Right.
Especially
have-
those in the grassroots.
Right.
Yeah.
That seems to be universal. I don't want you to think it's just in Nigeria. We have people here in the United States who reject that this is the late effects of polio, patients as well as doctors. So, you know, we're in this very global community of disbelief and not going further. So I just wanted to know, are there any particular polio support groups or post-polio support groups that you know of? That are just specific to that, to our particular illness?
Not really.
Mhm.
Aside from the one Mr. Ken added me
Right.
in Nigeria, I've not seen yet.
So you
Maybe
just put it under the
this-
disabilities umbrella.
Okay. This is a
Yeah.
very good homework to do. Thank you so much, Miss Ina.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else have any questions that we want to ask? If not, where were you driving during your talk today? Where were you going?
I was going for an advocacy visit to one of the traditional leaders.
Ah, there you go. We just wanted to know where you were driving us to today.
Oh, thank you, Ina, for being so friendly, and Mr. Ken, thank you for giving me this platform. I so
Well,
much
I
we
just want to
needed
mention,
to hear from you. We needed
Yeah.
to hear from you. And just
Yeah.
tell me, what does cedar seed mean? Where did that come from?
Yes, it was picked from, is a word from the Bible. Cedar of Lebanon is a tree that produces fruit for the whole year. So we're trying to tell the world that we are productive, we are independent, we are people with positive mindset.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
I
That's a
know.
great way to end. That's a
No,
great way to end.
Thank
I
you.
know, I know,
Yeah.
we have two hands up. Angela
Okay,
has
so
her
Angela,
hand
you
up.
have a quick thing to say?
I have a question. Have you had the opportunity to work with the two key people in Nigeria on ending polio, Joshua Hassan or Dr. Fungi? Always forget his last name, because they've been long time engaged in eradicating polio, and I'm finding that as we help those folks understand, myself included, post-polio syndrome, there is affinity to want to be able to do something. So I didn't know if you've had those connects yet, and if not, I could try to help those happen.
Yes, I don't really know them, so I'll
Okay.
be glad if you could connect us.
Excellent. We will take care of that. Maureen, my darling,
yeah,
how are
there you
you?
go.
How are you? Maureen?
I've been busy, but I've been listening. Wonderful story. Is your first name Cedar or no?
No, her first name is Lois.
Lois, that's right. Lois, do you know Ayuba Gafwan in
Yes,
Jersey?
yes.
You
The founder of Beautiful Gates.
do? Gate. Exactly.
Yes.
Okay. See,
Thank you.
we are global, aren't we? Mhm.
We,
Thanks for that.
we
Excellent.
hosted him in our house here in Florida several years ago. We took him around to all the rotaries and churches, you know, to help him with his mission of the hand propelled tricycles
Tricycles.
to get those survivors off the ground.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, Lois, there
thank-
is one,
thank-
Lois, one more question for you.
Mhm.
How did you
Yes,
get
please,
your
yeah.
first wheelchair? Where did that come from? Was it a charity? Did you purchase it? How did you find your way into that mobility device?
Oh, that's a very good question. I got my first mobility aid from my boss. I did an internship with Nigerian National Corporation, Nigerian Yes, NNPC.
And before that,
Nigerian
you had
National
crutches?
Petroleum Corporation. Yes,
Uh-huh.
before then, I could use a walking stick, but as time goes on, I began to add weight, and my legs could not carry my weight, so I
Yes.
needed a wheelchair. So I contacted him, and he gave me a check. It was even a motorized wheelchair that I started with, and up to now, I'm still using the motorized wheelchair. Thank you so
Well,
much. Now
yeah,
for-
we always want to know all of the ins and outs of how we manage to figure things out. So good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yes. Yeah, thank
Well,
you.
that might be it for today. Everybody is
Well,
happy.
I know-
More
I
hands
know-
up. Yeah.
I know, well, our next meeting is December 14th. And we have another great story of advocacy in California. Who
Great.
has cerebral palsy. So that will be December 14th. And you have a speaker for January, which we
I
decided.
do. Well, I'll announce that next time so as not to
Okay,
confuse, but we
all right.
have a January speaker who also, like Lois, is an advocate in every possible way. And that's what we're trying to teach. We're trying to teach all of ourselves to be advocates for ourselves and for others. Because if I can do something for me, that means everybody coming behind me then gets the benefit of my advocacy. And so we want to be sure that everybody advocates for themselves first.